Everybody, it is now the weekend, which means it's time for the weekend video. Get ready. Well, today I'd like to talk about the gospel of peace and why it's important that it's called the gospel of peace. See, the gospel of peace is the good news about peace. It's the announcement that the covenant of peace was established. That's the new covenant. And God himself called it the covenant of peace in Isaiah chapter 54. And he said when that covenant of peace is established, that he would no longer be angry, he would be at peace with all mankind. That mountains may fall, seas may rise, natural events may occur, but not because of anything he's doing, not by him. They just happen because when that covenant of peace is established, he is at peace with all men. And he said he would never remove that covenant of peace, ever. The reason that's important is because that is the gospel of peace. That is the good news. The covenant of peace was established through Jesus Christ at the cross. That's why Paul preached it. He was announcing the gospel of peace, the covenant of peace. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because there are Christians in this past week who have been saying that if we don't change our ways and do what they believe God wants us to do, and basically not thumb our noses in the face of God or something like that, that God would end things or God would start things. There is a lawmaker in California who last week has said that if California would end the abortions in California, that God would end the drought and bring rain. Because drought was punishment for abortion. And in this past week, just in the past few days, there are Christians around our country in the United States who are saying that God is going to judge this country and we are going to see catastrophes, earthquakes, whatever. God's going to judge this country somehow with something. Now, these are Christians who have Bibles, and in that Bible, Paul talks about the gospel of peace. But they're just being silly. They don't know the gospel. And they don't even look at the facts. They don't look at the fact that California, abortion was legalized in California in 1967. And that's almost 40 years ago. Ronald Reagan signed it into a law. And 1967, that's almost 40 years ago. And it took over 30 years for God to send a drought. People are saying, there was an article on the internet by a Christian who said, I wonder what plague God is going to send upon this country now that gay marriage is legal across the country. And I'll tell you what plague is going to come. The same plague that came 15 years ago to Holland, or 9 years ago to South Africa, or 10 years ago to Canada. No plague came to them, or a dozen other countries that have had it legal for years. And it'll be the same plague that hits the United States. No plague. See, these are terribly, terribly silly things that people are doing. It's as silly as some tribe in a remote area, when an eclipse happens, and they actually do human sacrifices until it stops, and they think if they do the human sacrifices, then the gods will stop the eclipse, or end the eclipse. It's silly. And these are dangerous, superstitious sillinesses, because they do nothing but cause fear in the hearts of people, and people get hurt. So there is a very good reason why the gospel of peace needs to be proclaimed, because the people who say they know the gospel are saying some very terrible things about the gospel. I know it's revolutionary, but have a revolutionary week.